Humans are storm creatures, fundamentally unsafe, impossible to work with. How many months of safe deliberation have housed?
The Velhari had a word for humans that didn't translate cleanly into any human language. The closest approximation, according to the linguistic database, was something between storm creature and controlled catastrophe, a phrase that managed to be both insulting and accurate depending on your perspective and how recently you had watched humans work. I had been called this word to my face by the Velhari Senior Council approximately 16 months before they asked me to save their civilization. My name is Architect Director Zain Rao, and I want to be precise about the sequence of events because the sequence matters. First they called me a monster. Then they needed a monster. Then they called me a partner. In that order. It's important. The Eden-class sanctuary project had been my proposal, a design concept I had developed over 3 years and submitted to the Galactic Relief Corps as a solution to the emerging refugee crisis that the Velhari collapse had created. 300,000 Velhari displaced when their primary station cluster failed. No planet to return to. No infrastructure left to support them. Just people. Blue-skinned, silver-haired, ancient and dignified and absolutely without a place to go. The Galactic Council had been discussing the crisis for 8 months when I submitted the proposal. They had been discussing it with a particular elegant thoroughness of governing bodies that prefer the quality of their deliberation to the urgency of an outcome. They had position papers and working groups and 3 separate subcommittees on the matter. They did not have a solution. I submitted a 700-page technical proposal for a self-sustaining orbital sanctuary capable of housing 400,000 beings, with integrated biological systems, closed-loop resource cycling, and a construction timeline of 14 months. The Velhari Senior Council read the first 40 pages and called an emergency session to discuss whether accepting help from humans was ethically sound. This was where the storm creature conversation happened. Councillor Vane, a tall, silver-haired elder whose composure I had come to respect despite the circumstances, explained with considerable delicacy that humans were known throughout the galactic community for an approach to problems that other species found philosophically troubling. We moved fast, they said. We improvised. We made decisions in the field that should have required committee review. We built things that weren't supposed to be buildable and then were surprised when this created problems. We were, in the Velhari framework, fundamentally unsafe. I listened to all of this. I agreed with most of it. Then I asked how many of the 8 months of deliberation had produced shelter for a single displaced Velhari. The answer was 0. They approved the proposal 4 days later. Quan Vel, the Velhari quantum engineer assigned as my primary technical liaison, met me at the construction platform on the first day of the build with a specific careful neutrality of someone who has been told to work with something they don't fully trust but has decided to be professional about it. He was taller than me by several inches, with a particular stillness of Velhari manner that I had learned to read not as coldness but as a different relationship with urgency. You understand, he said on that first day, looking out at the empty orbital space where the sanctuary would eventually exist, that this timeline is considered impossible by every Velhari engineer I have consulted. I know, I said. What did they say when you told them we were doing it anyway? They said you were a storm creature. They're not wrong, I said. The question is whether a storm is useful. He looked at me. He said nothing. But he turned back to the orbital space and he began to work, which was, I had learned how Velhari said yes when they were still reserving judgment. The build was everything the council had feared and everything I had promised, which turned out to be the same thing. We moved at a pace that the Velhari engineering teams described as physically distressing. We made 17 field decisions in the first month that should have gone to review committees. I personally rewrote the structural load calculations for the biodome anchoring system at 2 in the morning on day 38 because the numbers had been wrong and we were going to find out in the worst possible way if we didn't fix them now. I fixed them with Quan watching over my shoulder in silence, and when I was done he checked my work for 40 minutes and then said nothing except "continue" and went to his station. On day 91, the first habitat module came online. Quan found me at the observation window that evening, both of us looking out at the structure growing in the space between the stars, the biodomes catching the light, the work crews floating around the framework like something from a vision of what civilization could do when it stopped deliberating. "Building a future together," the display panel below us read. Someone had programmed it. I suspected Quan. He had not confirmed this. "The council sent a message," he said. "They wanted me to convey their," he paused, selecting the word carefully, "revised assessment of the project of humans." He was quiet for a moment. Councillor Vane specifically used the phrase "necessary force of nature." "I believe this is a significant revision from the previous terminology. Storm creature to necessary force of nature," I said. "That's progress." He looked at me with those pale blue eyes. And then he did something I had not seen a Velhari do in 4 months of working alongside them. He smiled. Genuine. The kind that doesn't announce itself. "The first families bored in 17 days, he said. 312,000 people. He looked back at the sanctuary. "You built something impossible, Zain Rao." "We built it," I said. He considered this for a moment. Then he turned back to the window and stood beside me, both of us looking out at what we had made. The human architect and the Velhari engineer, the storm creature and the ancient civilization that had needed a storm. Outside, in the construction lights, the Eden-class sanctuary continued to grow.